Hello, I'm Dr. Ron Johnson, co-editor of the International Journal of Open Educational Resources, and I will be your chair for this session. Before we begin, I would like to remind everyone to please mute your microphones to avoid any background noises. If you have any questions for the presenters, please type them in the chat box or in the questions form, and we will address them after the Q&A session, which will be after the end of this presentation. It is now my honor to introduce our presenters, Dr. Christina Kitson and Dr. Nabat Erdogan, both from the University of Central Missouri.
Hi, all right, I'm gonna share my screen, which has the slides, theoretically, hopefully. Everyone can see my screen. And if you want to, you can scan the code and that will take you to a site that has both the slides as well as AI resources that we've compiled. So let's get this started. We're talking about harnessing AI and responsible writing. So first of all, the role of AI is a powerful tool for student writing. We need to help as teachers guide students in this process of using it responsibly and effectively and knowing which tools to use and when. Part of this lies in improving the prompts. Part of this is adaptions in the writing process itself, and always keeping in mind academic honesty, which is an important part of the process.
Okay, so we first want to go ahead and define AI. What is AI? Artificial intelligence, as its name suggests, involves developing computer systems that can perform tasks that usually require human intelligence. So these tasks include learning, adapting, decision making, and these tasks are also achieved through machine learning techniques. AI can be used in education in a variety of ways, and there are a lot of different AI tools that are used in education today. ChatGPT is just one of those AI tools, but there are many more, and educators and students use these AI tools depending on their context, purpose, and so on. So if you're a student or a professor and you want to use it for research, I know that we all know that ChatGPT doesn't find resources and, come up, it hallucinates, sources and ideas sometimes, but there are different other AI tools that can provide some research articles, summarize some research articles for you, and even deduct some sources from other research articles to come up with a list of sources and so on. So again, based on your purpose and context, you can use different AI tools. And AI tools are typically intended to enhance and support the educational process. But the most important thing to do when you use AI tools is to know how to use them appropriately, properly, and ethically.
So just a little bit on really basic on how AI works. You put the data in, so AI tools are fed with this array of data, and it depends on the tool what data sets they have access to. But this might include text, images, videos, research, books, things that have been put on the internet. And then it's programmed with a learning algorithm to identify patterns, to look for relationships, and to form insights based on all of that data that's been put in. Then it's given a decision-making process so that it can make the best decisions based on what it's prompted to do or what it's asked to do, again, based on that huge data set. So this is why sometimes you might find one platform you like better because it might have had a different data set used in training it. And so that can make a big difference in what it's drawing from and the type of writing that it produces and the type of information. So we have ChatGPT. Obviously, the 3.5 version was the free version. Now they have 4.0. And they have 4.0, which is one's the paid version and one's the free upgraded version that has some of the functionality of the paid version. And then we have a bunch of others like Gemini, Copilot, Claude. There's a lot. And it's really just a matter of sitting and playing with them, trying different prompts, seeing which ones work better for you. Everyone I've talked to sort of has a platform they like the best. And a lot of people, it is ChatGPT because that was their first platform. But I know a lot of people who found one of the other tools to be much more useful and possibly integrated into their workplace already, since Gemini and Copilot, depending upon if you use Microsoft or Google, may already be part of your workplace.
Okay, so teachers play actually a very important role in guiding students how to use AI for writing and for research, for anything in general. So because we speak about writing, so we will give some examples for writing today. AI can be used to enhance students' writing skills, and instead of relying solely on AI to generate content, teachers should encourage students to use AI as a tool to improve their writing. And by improving their writing, could be their grammar, for example. AI can be used for grammar checks, for brainstorming ideas. And I call this negotiating ideas sometimes, because you put an idea into, for example, ChatGPT or any AI tool, and it can come up with other different ideas to improve or to enhance your thinking, and then students' thinking. And then those, you can pick and choose whichever idea fits your understanding better. So therefore, I call it more like negotiating ideas. And also it can help give feedback on drafts. And the nice thing about this is this feedback will be immediate. So AI can also be used to develop students' critical thinking skills. So, for example, teachers can prompt students to analyze and evaluate AI-generated content or discuss its accuracy and relevance. As I mentioned, sometimes AI can come up with not very accurate, like inaccurate information, and students should be able to critically analyze that output and refine the ideas based on their own understanding, and hopefully based on accurate knowledge. And then AI can be used to encourage creativity. For example, it can inspire creativity by offering different perspectives or generating different prompts. Again, ethical use of AI is very important, and teachers should emphasize the importance of using AI ethically. But this it can be done by demonstrating the ethical use, right? So teachers can talk about plagiarism, for example, bias in AI tools, or, like we know that there's bias even, we know that there are some AI image generators, right? And when you, for example, ask for an image based on some biases that it carries, it can create a specific image. So students should know about this. And students should also know about the importance of their original work. And these are all can be discussed under ethical uses of AI. And the best way to do that is to demonstrate. Educators should demonstrate the ethical use in practice to help students understand these concepts such as plagiarism, bias, and so on. So how can AI be integrated in writing, for example? There are different ways to integrate AI in writing. One of them is, for example, drafting ideas, drafting essays, creating outlines, and so on. Also, editing and proofreading, for example. Students drafted their essay, and now they need some help with editing and proofreading. Also, feedback and revision, right? So AI generated feedback is important because it's immediate at the same time, and it's individualized. at the same time. So these strategies can help students to improve their writing.
So some insights from some of the research, and this is based on the research article, so you can see in the top bullet point there. But some of the main insights are that AI can allow for personalized learning and that work at your own pace concept, because instead of relying on teacher feedback solely and to improve their writing, they can now have AI help them improve their writing and go through the steps and stages with AI, especially if the teacher has already provided a prompt for that. I know that formative assessment is becoming a term that's being replaced, but I still like formative assessment. So the concept of real-time feedback is really important so that there's that constant step of improvement. And, you know, if I'm sitting and working on a paper at a weird time, my teacher may not be available for me. Being able to have somewhere to go to get some real-time feedback, and that can really help things stick in your mind as well. There are a lot of collaboration tools that are AI driven. So like Trello and Asana, if you're in Microsoft, you can provide scaffolding support. So this is sort of like breaking things down into smaller steps. And that's for both sides. The teacher can use AI to help create that scaffolded process, but then the students can use AI to work through the scaffolded process, getting feedback throughout that process. Cultivating metacognition, this sounds really strange, but getting students to think about what they're writing and why versus what AI wrote and why, and to think about that process they're going through, the steps, the things they've learned, set their own goals, and really think about that in the bigger picture rather than just I wrote a paper. Accessibility and inclusivity. So there's speech recognition, there's text to speech. One of the great things about a lot of the AI platforms is they allow you to be like, what does this word mean in this context? And that's very different than going to an urban dictionary, because it's going to have a very limited definition of that word, and it may not be the context that you're looking for. So AI allows you to have that kind of cultural exploration part that I think is really valuable. Now, designing improved prompts is a big part of this process. So crafting prompts that challenge both the students and AI is important. So you have to really get to the deeper thinking side of things, but remain creative. And that's one of the things that AI struggles with, right? This may include an element of personal thought or some kind of a connection to their personal history, to their own opinion. AI is really good at purely objective, informative type writing, but it's not as good at subjective, opinion-based writing. So trying to shift some of your prompts to feed into that sort of benefit that people have that AI lacks. Improved prompts can also help educators identify when students are, you know, kind of meeting certain factors, but not maybe meeting the assignment criteria. And you can put specific examples as one of those criteria. So whenever you ask for a specific example, AI is not always good at it. It can create content, but it can't always create a specific example from like, think about when you were in, AI has no concept for thinking about you were in third grade. And again, the opinion, it poses a big problem. So one of the things we can do with our prompts is include those personal elements. And what we'll find with the AI's response is that they often focus on definitions and providing broad ideas, general information, and skip the elements that are more personal because they're just not capable. Or in the worst case, it will provide the things that say AI cannot provide an opinion because it's not which is, you know, if the student leaves that in a paper, that's a real big problem. But the nice part about this is that we still get to what the student thinks. We can still get to a lot of the same learning objectives that we would, but now we're just saying that the student's voice actually matters more than just having that declarative knowledge and being able to regurgitate facts and information.
Yes, so we have some examples here to demonstrate how you can create your prompts. We can create our prompts as educators. So one of them is an example. This is something an activity a prompt that I use in my classroom with my undergraduate students. So they are supposed to watch this video and answer the questions below. So we are not going to watch this video today in this presentation, but I will summarize it briefly for you, so you have an idea of what they are supposed to watch and how they're supposed to answer this question. So this is a brief video about a student, an English language learner in a middle school math class. He's a newcomer, so he doesn't have enough English skills, but he knows the content well. So he knows math well, but he doesn't have the skills to communicate what he knows. And the questions are, the prompts are, how does Moises feel in the classroom? What problems is he facing? How could his teacher do to help him? And so his teacher isn't really helping him in this video. So, I'm trying just to have students reflect on what they could do if they were Moises's teachers. So, and the third question, if you notice, says, how would you accommodate Moises in your content area? So in the class that I'm teaching, that I use this prompt for, is it is a class for like general ed students. So I have different students from different backgrounds. So they could be like pre-service teachers, right? From social studies content area, from math, ELA, and so on. So they need to come with some strategies from their specific content area. So this is more personalized response that they need to give to me. And also they, of course, need to watch the video first. For example, we know that ChatGPT can't watch videos. And even if it comes with answers, it would be just general common sense responses, kind of. But there are some other AI tools, new AI tools that can watch videos and summarize videos, but specifically ChatGPT cannot do that. It can process transcriptions, and it can process text data, but it cannot watch videos yet. So, but I gave this prompt to ChatGPT. I copied and pasted to ChatGPT, and you can see it there. And it came up with some responses, and I'm guessing that it basically came up with some responses based on the title of the video. And if based on the questions that I'm asking, it assumed that Moises should be going through some problems. And if you notice in the first paragraph, it says that he's overwhelmed with the difficulty of the material. But in fact, Moises is not having any difficulty with the material. His problem is just the language. He actually solved the math problem, but he didn't know how to communicate that to the class and to the teacher. So basically, if students give this prompt to ChatGPT, because it's a video ChatGPT didn't watch, they will come up with this response or a similar one, which is not quite accurate based on the questions. And specifically the third one, the third question, you see that there are some general responses there, but those responses don't talk about the students, the pre-service teachers' content area, which I'm asking, what would you do in your content area? What strategies would you use in your content area? So if we can go to the next slide, Dr. Kitson. So yeah, this is where it answers the third question. For example, you see some blanket statements. They are not anything specific, not anything based on students' experiences and so on. And next, we have a second example in the next slide. And this is also something that I use with my students, again, in the same course. So there are some questions here. Which 3 words do you believe best describes your culture? And then they need to share a story about a time they were especially proud to identify themselves with one of those descriptors they use. They were share a story about a time it was especially painful to be identified with one of your descriptors, and so on. So this is solely experience and opinion-based prompt. So students need to talk about themselves, right? And when I gave this prompt to ChatGPT, it came up with not very relevant responses. And the first one actually is where it says, share a story about a time you were especially proud to identify yourself with one of the descriptors. It talked about some natural disaster that most likely student needs to explain what kind of natural disaster they went through. So these are the prompts that students need to talk about their experiences when they respond to this prompt. So creating such prompts would help educators ensure that students don't just copy and paste and get responses from AI tools, but they actually they reflect on something, on their personal experiences and on their own opinions and understanding. And next, we want to talk about some features of AI-generated text. So sometimes we get an assignment from a student, but we are not sure. It looks like AI generated, but how does an AI generated text look or feel, I would say? So most of the time, I mean, you can't see any grammatical, spelling, or punctuation errors in AI generated text. Like it would be very, very rare. So there's lack of factual information, evidence, or authentic examples, especially when we said that some AI tools, including ChatGPT, hallucinate, and they can provide fake, for example, resources, and they can cite fake sources. So there will most likely be no factual information unless you give ChatGPT or other AI tools an actual article, and they want you just copy and paste, and you want them summarized. It would be accurate, but other than that, if you want ChatGPT to come up with sources and factual information, sometimes it could be really wrong. So AI-generated texts usually have unusual lexical choice, like word choice, like very sophisticated words sometimes that your freshman student wouldn't use. So there will be more robotic sentences, like expressions. There will be absence of emotion or personality. So like personal elements, originality will be lacking. Smoother sentence flows, and again, more sophisticated sentences with greater syntactic variety. You would see a lot of different variety of sentences in students' texts. And textual organization. So you will see that perfect organization there with some transition words like nevertheless, however, and so on. I understand that those words, we use those words as in academia when we write papers, but it's not very common for a freshman student to use, like to have a perfect textual organization when they write their essays. Yeah, and there is I guess in the chat, there is a comment here. Sometimes I see generalized boldless. Yes, that is also correct. We see those too. Yes, I think, yeah, we have this example here that shows, this is the actual student written discussion post that I copied and pasted to ChatGPT to see how ChatGPT edits this. And even in the first sentence, the student used the word important, and ChatGPT changed it to crucial. So, and there are a lot of examples in this specific text edit where ChatGPT changed a very simple basic word to a more sophisticated, like unusual sometimes words. So that's how we see that it's like different, like how AI changes. Sometimes grammar and cohesion can be okay, fine, but ChatGPT will still tend to change and edit it to a more sophisticated version of the text. So that's how we see that it's different. It's more robotic, I would say.
All right, so now a little about how we can, as teachers, help enhance the writing process using AI. So, note this is enhancing the process, not replacing the process. So, Nabat just gave good examples of what sometimes happen when AI writes too much. But I really encourage teachers to think about their writing process, how they teach the writing process, and then think about which steps along that process they're okay with using AI for. And my usual rule of thumb is if you were okay with them talking to a friend or a parent or a writing center or working with someone else on those aspects of a paper prior to AI, those are good places where AI could be used in the process. Because there's not, in my mind, a huge difference between a person that's outside of the class and AI that's outside of the class helping them with their class writing. So if you're looking at things to help with grammar and style, some suggested AI platforms would be like Grammarly or Hemingway Editor, which both give feedback on grammar, punctuation, and style. I know Grammarly has sort of shifted and they now have embedded AI and they will write, it is capable now of writing a lot more and working like a true AI rather than being an editor system. So that, think about that when you're deciding whether your students should be using it or you want your students to use it. If you're looking for idea generation, the basic chat bots are going to be sort of the easiest place for the student. And it might just be so simple as I have a 3-page paper due in my 9th grade English class. Give me topics, whatever it is, whatever the aspect you're looking for. And it's just to get ideas. I was a person that really struggled sometimes to get an idea. Once I had it, I was great. I could write, I could research, I could do all of the different parts, but I was just not the great decision maker. So some of our students are not great decision makers. I have those students in my class. And so it's really nice sometimes to get a little bit of just guidance, an idea that comes from someone else. And I know everybody that's a teacher has probably dealt with a student coming to them with that question, well, how do I get ideas? So this is one of those ways. Research assistance. My colleague mentioned that ChatGPT hallucinates, it gives incorrect information, but there are other research-based AIs that are much better. Scite is sort of an extension off of ChatGPT, and it is specifically for research. It's a great research tool. It helps find articles. It gives simple summaries. It doesn't replace the process of reading the article or finding the information that you want. It just helps you find connected things, as does Research Rabbit. Elicit is also good for this. Consensus, Semantic Scholar. These are all research-oriented AI platforms. None of them are going to write your lit review for you. None of them are going to write your research section for you. They're going to help you find connections. They're going to help you find articles that connect to your topic or that connect to other aspects of your topic. And sometimes it's really nice just to, I actually like Research Rabbit because I often say you go down the rabbit hole when you're starting to try to find something and you just keep looking and looking and looking, because you put in the article that you have and it gives you all these connected articles. It could be thematically connected. It could be, they show you which other pieces those authors have produced, and you kind of get to pick how you follow that path. Language translation. This is becoming, I think, a bigger issue if you have international students, because a lot of international students translate, they write in their first language and then translate for their papers. And AI has then sort of made that process sound much better because AI then corrects a lot of those little errors in the translation. Google Translate is pretty good. I really like DeepL. I actually think it's a little better than Google Translate. But this is a place to think about, you know, having, maybe if you're really questioning things, have reverse translate it, like stick it in and try to take it back to their first language and see what it looks like, or find someone that can read it for you and help to see how much of it was translation. But it's also really great if you need help talking to somebody and you want to be able to put comments in something and you don't know the language, because it gives you a really good starting point. Content organization and structure. I like Copy.ai is for outlining. MindMeister is great for mind mapping. It really just depends on how you want to work through that process. For some people, that part of the brainstorming process should come from the person, but I think it's okay if you want to use a device to assist that process, as long as you think about what that means. So in the past, I remember getting those little graphic organizers in elementary school. You filled in all the bubbles. You can think of some of these as being quite like that, only it starts to help you in the process by making suggestions. It doesn't mean that you have to accept the suggestions, and it's going to give you more suggestions than you need. So you still have to edit. So it's just sort of thinking about a revision to that part of the process. And then automated feedback and revision. So ProWriting Aid, Hemingway Editor, Grammarly, any of the chat bots can give you that automated feedback, the revision aspects. And as the teacher, if you want to control that a little bit more, you can even provide the prompt that they have to enter in. And I always recommend, if you're going to go this system, to include things like having them turn in what they put into the AI platform, name the platform they used, and then provide what AI gave them. Like, what were the suggestions, not the corrections, but because you can ask it in the prompt to give you the reasoning for the correction. So what did they learn from that process of having that interaction with AI? So again, we're taking it back and making it that meaningful learning experience, not just, hey, look, it rewrote it for me.
Dr. Kitson, before you move on to the next slide, I just wanted to add about language translation here. So we also need to keep in mind that AI tools can be more advanced for some languages and less advanced for some other languages. I've tested it in some different languages, but my first language is Azerbaijani. It doesn't have much linguistic corpora in the internet. And we know that AI tools learn from the input that they find in the internet. And for example, I don't get similar high-level responses when I ask prompts in my first language, Azerbaijani, but in Russian, for example, in, of course, English, because the largest corpora would be in English. And for example, Turkish still gives you some good translation and like output in Turkish. In Russian, you can get good output. But for example, in my first language, which is Azerbaijani, you don't get as much output as you would get for like advanced languages with advanced linguistic corpora in the internet. So that's something that we need to also consider. In that case, some students who speak a different language as their first language can be more lucky than some other students when they use AI tools, because again, the outputs would be different based on the language, based on how much the language is used.
Is this me?
Yes.
Okay. So one of the other aspects that we've talked about and hinted at throughout the presentation is academic honesty, ethics, plagiarism. So the really important thing is to create a code of academic honesty. This is essential for promoting integrity and ethical conduct in student writing. So the students need to know what is okay, what is not okay. Everybody needs to, I don't want to say agree, but I think collaboratively creating a code really helps students to understand and agree with the conditions put forward in the code. So it sort of has that shared responsibility aspect. And teachers and students can both help in making sure that everyone, I don't want to say plays along, but everyone upholds those. And I think that this isn't something that you talk about once and then walk away from. So there's ongoing discussion, there's reinforcement. When you are doing things in class, it should be modeling the code that you've agreed to, but it should also be then creating more trust and honesty so that people feel like they can really talk about it, because it shouldn't be a conversation of, did you use AI? And the person, stops talking or, is just shocked or something like that. We want to make sure that this is an open conversation, because this is sort of changing our dynamic. This is not as easy as I can show you the Google website that word for word is your paper. AI isn't, you're not going to find a word for word version. So there's never a way of having that definitive 100% proof. The AI detectors are not reliable, and I wouldn't recommend using them. And I certainly wouldn't use them as a piece of evidence. I put in a passage from my dissertation, which was published in 2015, and it was 89% AI written. Obviously, it wasn't 89% AI written, but if I were a person that said, oh, anything over 50, and I'm going to assume it was AI, that would be a problem, because I didn't use AI, but it shows that I did. So those generators, those detectors, they're looking for specific terminology. They're looking for lack of errors. They're looking for those sophisticated word choices. And they're determining, because those were used or there were a lack of errors, that it is a better statistical probability of having been AI generated. So if you have a student who is using more sophisticated words and is grammatically correct, their work will likely show up that way. So having this open dialogue, having this ability to have the conversation is going to really impact how your class looks and feels about this process of using AI.
This is you, Christina,
Is it okay?
addressing academic honesty.
So academic honesty is the cornerstone for our scholarly integrity. And we as educators have to be part of the process. We have to talk about what plagiarism is. We have to talk about how to do a proper citation, and we have to talk about how to use AI ethically. And one of the things I want to talk about with plagiarism is that for the longest time, plagiarism was using someone else's words as your own. And I think this is where we need to sort of shift our understanding of plagiarism. And instead of saying someone else's words, we need to shift the focus to words that are not your own and just leave it at that, because everybody's going to have the student in class that says, well, it's not someone else. If AI wrote it, it's not a someone, because someone can't be software. And it's hard to argue because that's not inaccurate. So by shifting the focus to words that are not your own, but portraying them as your own, now we're talking about the part that is dishonesty. We're talking about the part that they knowingly used content they did not write and portrayed it as their own writing. So it's important that we provide strategies on integrating these discussions, but thinking about academic integrity into the curriculum itself. So this, again, not one time at the beginning of class. This is going to be an ongoing discussion you have throughout your course. And what it means in your classroom is that students should know what your policy is. And if the school has a policy, they should know what that policy is. And that the writing should be their own, but it's okay to get help as long as that help is approved. So if it's AI, that needs to be approved. If it's a writing center, that needs to be approved. And that means the teacher has to have known what that use was, and they've got to agree to it, or it's got to be part of that policy.
So classroom implementation strategies using AI. So we can how we can effectively implement AI tools in the classroom. This would require careful planning, and it's very important that we already have something in practice in place, and then we integrate AI into this. So we should integrate AI into existing instructional practices, and we shouldn't go the other way around, that rely on solely AI created content and go from there. So AI should support our existing instructional practices rather than create something for us and we just take it and teach it, for example. So how we can use AI in instruction, it can help to scaffold instruction. And so it can, for example, teachers can provide scaffolded learning experiences for students where support is gradually removed as students become more proficient in the content. So it can offer, for example, it can guide students through complex tasks, and allow them build their skills progressively. It can also provide targeted feedback, and we said that it's like personalized feedback is important because sometimes teachers just don't have time to give each student very elaborated feedback on their assignments, on their writing, on their tasks. So AI can help do that personalized, immediate, targeted feedback to each student to help them understand their student strengths and areas for improvement. And so it can also help differentiate learning, and we can have different students from different backgrounds, even language backgrounds, where they need to access the same content, but they don't have skills to access the same content. So AI can help educators differentiate their assignments, assessments, instruction in general, and help students learn the same standards, the same content, but in a differentiated way. So and this can help meet the diverse needs of diverse students. So again, it's very important to demonstrate the appropriate use of AI before encouraging students use AI on their work. So teachers should show students how to utilize it responsibly, ethically, again, and that would help students to use it properly, we guess. And so AI can also help create, I'm sorry, exemplars. And generate exemplars of high quality work, for example, and teachers can test prompts with AI tools and revise them based on the output and fine tune these exemplars to better align with learning objectives with the standards and assignment criteria. And also, so AI can also be used to create like fake data for students to use to practice analysis skills. And it won't be difficult to create actually fake data with AI because some of them already do that. So that would help students to analyze to just practice their analysis skills and to find that data to maybe negotiate correct responses with AI. So that's another way how AI can be used in the classroom.
I'm going to go a little fast because I know we're running out of time. I think we have less than 5 minutes now. So some of this we've already talked about, integrating AI into our process. So just make sure that if your prompt is answerable by AI, you revise your prompt, because if AI can answer it perfectly, then it's not a good writing prompt at this point in our writing curriculum, because AI can do it. This is all of what I just talked about thinking about your steps and stages, being aware of things like having students be able to use AI for those specific cultural concepts. Like if you're having them respond to a book and they have no concept. I had a foreign exchange student living with me, and she had to read The Great Gatsby, but she had no idea about the Great Depression or anything that led around the time of The Great Gatsby. So culturally, she had nothing to connect with. So using AI as a tool to allow students to kind of look that information up and get a better understanding, it can really help. There are a lot of extensions that allow you to talk to it rather than typing. So if you have students that maybe they're not as great of typers, or they can't type for some reason, they could talk to the platform directly, and then everything is put on the screen like a transcription. And then we're done. This is our conclusion. So the responsible integration of AI tools holds a lot of potential, but we have to make sure that students know how to use it well, and still keep to the idea that writing needs to be something they learn how to do, and that AI can just help them through that process. So we need to keep thinking about how to bring it in, how to talk about it, how to equip our teachers to understand it, to use it themselves, and move towards this kind of modern landscape that we have coming now, that's not going to look the same as it did 20 years ago. So these are questions just for you to ponder and think about. How can you apply the insights, if you have any, from what we talked about today into your teaching practice? And then I want everyone to have a little time to play. I know we're out of time, but this is our QR code. So if you scan this, you will get our slides, but you'll also get a bunch of the AI tools that were talked about in this presentation. And you'll be able to go and just explore and experiment as much as you want.
Christina, could you please allow access to the AI presentation, because there is currently no access? And
it's currently no access.
Uh-huh.
All right, let me see what I can do. I'm not sure why it's no access.
Well, while you're figuring that out, I'd just like to thank both Dr. Kitson and Dr. Erdogan for a very timely, relevant, and interesting look at AI in the classroom. We saw the role of the teachers, discussed bias, original work, the ethics behind AI. It was a very good research discussion. What I like to see is, is it real or is it AI? That's the question we're all going to have to ask ourselves. And again, the AI tools and the slide presentation that the two researchers have provided are going to be very helpful There are just one or two more in the chat, and I think the QR code is going to answer all of that. That some people don't have access to the chat. It's the little, if you look at the bottom of the screen, it's where chat is, it's there.
Christina and Nabat, if you send me the files by email, we can post them in our website and we'll send an email to everybody with a link to access the materials.
It's a Google Doc. I know my link works. I don't know why. Are people struggling if they clicked on my link? Because it's set that anyone with the link can view it. QR code is. I can put the QR code back up if people want the QR code back up.
It's still asking for request access. So even on mine,
Yeah, it
Let me
says
check.
you need, it says you need permission. Okay.
yes.
Daniel, will make sure that everybody gets that once we get it all straightened out. Is that correct, Daniel?
Yes, we'll get it sorted out and we'll let everybody know with the link to access the documents. Right now, I'm afraid we have to close so we can open the next session.
Thank you, everybody, for attending. Thank you again to our presenters, and wish everybody a good day and see you in another discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.